Hello fun people, I'm Isaac Carlson and I'm focused on spreading magic by discussing Disney, DreamWorks, and animation. And today I'm going to be explaining what I believe caused the destruction of Duloc. Why did Lord Farquaad's death mean his perfect world fell into ruins? And of course, if you are new here and you want to join this community of swamp-loving layered animation fans, then consider subscribing. In Shrek, Farquaad was established to be a tyrannical leader guiding his land and people under a strict dictatorship. This small man wanted to make sure that he finally took control of the parts of his life that he had the ability to dominate. The Lordship of Duloc was constructed as a city-state centered around Farquaad's enormous castle and featured symmetrical planning, unified theming, and rigid rules for the townspeople. Every aspect of Farquaad's kingdom was specifically placed and thought through. All who were brought to live here were forced to obey strict commands that guided their behavior, appearance, and even when they were able to cheer at events. It was truly a picture-perfect place complete with monorail and gift shop, and I go into more detail on its rise in the backstory of Lord Farquaad, which will be linked down below. As long as everyone bought the Farquaad merchandise and conformed to the demands of their lord, they would all be safe, which I'm sure was extremely comforting for everyone. But then the whole thing crumbled. At Farquaad and Fiona's wedding, the lord was eaten by dragon and inevitably died after Shrek's karaoke dance party. And in the aftermath, Duloc fell into ruin, which we see in Scared Shrekless. It became a creepy, dilapidated, and nasty place that seemed to be surrounded by an aura of death. It was definitely not the luxurious city of perfection that Farquaad had hoped it would become, and I think that's all because Farquaad overextended his control. In a kingdom where there was no freedom, individual expression, or choice, Farquaad's people seemed desperate for change, and we get to see that play out when Shrek becomes Farquaad's champion. When Shrek and Donkey arrive in Duloc, at first the citizens are completely caught off guard, are scared, and desire for the ogre's demise. But as soon as Shrek begins to take control of the fight, they quickly shift their tone. I mean, come on, Shrek is the champion they've been looking for. They love how Shrek listens to the crowd, puts on a show, and seems to have a great time defying Farquaad's men. Shrek's ability to obliterate guards and smack them around with a chair entertains them, and it almost seems like a cathartic experience for them to see. They got to see someone fighting for their life and win, and they expressed themselves however they desired when the battle took place. They loved seeing Shrek go full WWE SmackDown on those armored guards. But maybe they also appreciated a fairy tale creature rising up against an oppressor as well. In Far, Far Away, the phobia against magic is far less than Duloc, which shows that these beings aren't people that are universally despised. Maybe many of the people of Duloc wanted fairy tale creatures to stay in the city, but were forced to obey the knights that followed Farquaad. It just seems like the people were very quick to embrace someone that their leader hated, which appears to indicate that they did not fundamentally agree with Farquaad's rules. Maybe Duloc's people were just waiting for an opportunity to break free from the control of Farquaad and his army. I think it's possible that Duloc was a growing kingdom that was constantly on the brink of collapse. If Lord Farquaad would have killed Shrek, the leader would have shown everyone that no one was allowed to disturb his plans, and he would never listen to his people. But he didn't make that decision. Sure, I think in Lord Farquaad's mind he was getting rid of Shrek by granting him a quest, but what really took place was that in front of the entire kingdom, Farquaad empowered an ogre. Farquaad had created an environment where typically no voices could be heard, and no one had power other than him. But it was here that suddenly Shrek was given what he wanted. I'm sure the Lord just thought that he didn't have to waste a man going to fight a dragon, but I don't think Farquaad really thought through the ramifications of that public decision. Even though I believe Farquaad was primarily thinking of himself when he let Shrek go, suddenly Duloc's citizens saw that their own voices could be listened to when they were unified. I think Farquaad showed a weakness in his regime to the people he was attempting to dominate. He had shown Duloc that at times their voices could be heard, and Shrek was given the opportunity to live and to continue to alter the fate of Duloc. With that crack beginning to grow, I think it completely splits the kingdom when Shrek successfully brings back Fiona and interrupts Farquaad's marriage to pronounce his love for Fiona. At that moment, the citizens don't seem to turn against the ogre. They don't boo him like they originally did at the arena. They laugh at him when they are instructed to, but I think that's done because they were surrounded by guards. Sure, the people in the front row are playing it up for Farquaad, but most people seem fairly paralyzed throughout Shrek's return to Duloc. After being shocked to see Fiona become an ogre, which I think is a pretty reasonable human reaction to seeing a beautiful girl be transformed into a large green creature out of nowhere, they don't really make a sound as they watch Shrek and Fiona's lives be threatened by their ruler. They just kind of are forced to watch Lord Farquaad descend into hysteria, madness, and uncontrollable rage until he is inevitably eaten by Dragon. And you know what happens next? The people cheer. They aren't afraid of Farquaad, the guards, or even Dragon. They appear to be grateful that their leader had been destroyed, and were even moved when the ogres professed their love for one another. Without Farquaad, Duloc no longer had a lord to guide the province, and there was no centralized power to take over because Shrek and Fiona weren't going to handle it, and neither was anyone who worked under Farquaad like Thelonious. In reality, Thelonious was the only person who continued to support Farquaad from beyond the grave. When Farquaad came back as a spirit in Shrek 4D, Thelonious was the sole individual who served him. So what we really seemed to find out was that there was no succession plan, no one wanted to take over Duloc, and the people were ready to move on. So it seemed that chaos ensued. The citizens likely ransacked Duloc for everything that it had, overrunning any loyal individuals to Farquaad. That likely established the kingdom as a shell of its former self, and it was abandoned by the people who were forced to submit to leadership within those walls. I think it was just left to rot after the people of Duloc decided that they didn't want to live in Farquaad's perfect world any longer, and we're going to wait for another person to take his place as a tyrannical leader. I believe that makes a lot of sense, and I would probably do the same thing. I'd be out of there. I believe the citizens of Duloc were inspired by Shrek and Fiona's resistance to Farquaad's world and tore down the kingdom as they left. In my mind, Duloc fell into anarchy. But let me know down below what your thoughts and theories are surrounding what happened to Duloc. Also, make sure to subscribe and click the beautiful bell, and then click on another magical video in the description or on the screen. Finally, as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.